Hey guys. Okay, so we're going to be working through the review. So we're going to start with number 1, which says multiply I plus 3 times 2 minus 3i. So to multiply parentheses, we just do first times first. So I times 2, which is 2i. Then we do I times negative 3i, which is negative 3i squared. And then, so we did first to first, we did first to second, so we've done first to all of these. So now we're going to do second to first, okay, which is a positive 6, 3 times 2. And then 3 times negative 3i, which is negative 9i. Alright, so remember that I squared is the same thing. I squared is equal to negative 1. So I'm going to replace I squared with negative 1. Alright, so plus 6 minus 9i. Alright, now, negative 3 times negative 1 is going to make this become a positive 3. And then plus 6 minus 9i still. Now I'm going to put like terms together. 3 plus 6 is 9. 2i minus 9i is negative 7i. And there you go. That's how you do that problem. Okay, let's move on to number 2. It says use the quadratic formula to solve this equation. Okay, so 1, it's important that you remember what the quadratic formula is. Quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. Okay? Now, let's identify what a equals, what b equals, and what c equals. A is always a number next to x squared, so for this problem that's 2. B is always a number next to x, so for this problem that's 5. C is our constant, it's always a number by itself, so for this problem that's a negative 2. Okay, so now I take this a, b, and c and I plug them in. So x is equal to a negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 2. All divided by 2 times a, which is 2. Okay? So now the next thing you got to do is just figure out what's underneath the square root. You got to do that part first. So we're going to let the calculator do that for us. Okay? So, let me get the calculator turned on. See where we're at. So we're going to do 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2. And that is 41. So now we have x is equal to negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 41, all divided by 2 times 2, which I know is 4. And there you go. Now, the reason we're done here is because you can't actually take the square root of 41. The square root of 41 is not a nice, simple number. It is 6.4, right? And it keeps going. And we don't want to write 6.4. We don't want to estimate. We want to be exact. Since we can't be exact on the square root of 41, we stop right here, and this is our final answer. Okay? Let's go on to the next problem. Problem number 4, we talked about that one in class. I'm not going to talk about it again. Okay? So let's go on to problem 5. All right. So problem number 5 says, convert f of x equal to x squared minus 6x plus 11 into y equals a x minus a squared plus k, also known as vertex form. Okay? So we want to take the standard form and we're going to convert it into vertex form. We're going to let the calculator do all the heavy lifting for us on this problem. Alright, and I changed it into a multiple choice problem for you. And we're going to let the calculator do all the heavy lifting. So again, if you were not in class, remember, I changed this to an ABCD problem. Okay, so we're going to go to y equals. We're going to type in the original, which is x squared minus x squared minus 6x plus 11. Okay? Now we're going to type in, I'm going to type them all in once. I'm going to show you how I would do this. I just think it's even a little bit faster. I know I showed you all through graphing on one day, But I want to show you how it could be even faster with just a little bit of thinking. Plus 11. And then that is x minus 6. Oops. X minus 6 squared plus 5. And then x minus 3 squared plus 2. And then that is going to be x minus 3 squared minus 2. Okay? So I'm not actually going to look at the graph. I'm going to look at the table. Alright, so to look at the table, I'm going to hit second. My calculator doesn't want to let me, so we're going to hit graph to see. Okay, it's just not letting me hit second. I'm going to hit pause recording until I get this working. Okay, I got this back working, so I'm going to hit second, and I'm going to hit graph. And this takes me to a bunch of tables. This is my original table, y1. y1 is the y values for this guy right here. Okay? So now, I'm just going to go through these tables until I find the table that matches up with y1. So y2, which was A, which was answer choice A, does not match up, so I know that one doesn't work. y3 does not match up if you scroll back, because it's supposed to start with 11. y3 does not match up, which was B. y4 does seem to match up, so that could be my answer. I'm just going to check y5 real fast, because that's D. Does not match up, so I know my answer choice must be C. Alright, let's go to 6. It says, describe the transformations for the following equation from the parent function f of x equal x squared. So that's what we're just talking about. It goes up, down, left, right, vertical stretch. Here, we are multiplying the whole quadratic part by 2. So that represents a vertical stretch by 2. This minus 1 inside the parentheses with x, that means right 1. And this plus 3 means up 3. Alright? So that's the answer to this problem. Number 7. Graph y equals x minus 2 and y equals x squared plus 2 on the grid below. Explain why these two different equations has no solutions. Okay, let's just think about that. I'm going to let the calculator do the heavy lifting of graphing this for me, though. I'm not going to make this complicated for myself. So we're going to go through and we're going to click clear on all of them real fast. And then we're going to type in x minus 2. Alright. And then we're going to type in x squared plus 2. Okay. And we're going to hit graph. And you see here that these two things never ever cross one another. So therefore, the reason it has no solutions is because they never intersect. So there's no solutions because the two graphs do not intersect. Okay? Let's move on. Problem number 8. Okay, I started working on this in class for a student. Okay. Problem number 8 says simplify 3 minus 5i minus 2 plus 5i. Okay, so, these first two parentheses, there's no reason for them. So 3 minus 5i. Now, I want to drop these two parentheses as well. That means I distribute this negative sign into both things. So this positive 2 will become a negative 2, and this positive 5i will become a negative 5i. So now I can just combine like terms. 3 minus 2 is 1. Negative 5i minus 5i is minus 10i. And there we go. That's our answer. 1 minus 10i. Alright, next problem. A parabola contains these 3 points. Find the equation's parabola in standard form. What is the coefficient on x squared? Okay, again, the calculator can do all of the heavy lifting for us. We can go to Stat. We can go to Edit. We can type our x values in L1 and our y values in L2. Alright, so that's going to be negative 1, negative 5. Oh, I'm adding in values. Whoops. In case you ever accidentally add in values, you can remove them, specific values, with the delete button. Okay, let's go back to the very top. Okay, negative 1, negative 5, and negative 7. Okay, so I type x is in L1, y is in L2. So I'm going to hit second mode to jump out. Now I jump back in through Stat. I go to Calc. I hit 5. I press enter, and the answer to the question just wanted, what is the coefficient on x squared? Well, I know a is always in front of x squared, so the coefficient for a is equal to 1. So my answer is 1. Alright, let's go on. I did number 10 in class for you. Remember that the axis of symmetry is just the x value of the vertex, okay? And that vertex form is this right here. We get the vertex from vertex form is the point HK, alright? So in this case, h was a negative 2. If you're curious about why we say negative 2s, look at this. It says x minus h. In order for it to become plus, h must be a negative 2 to change this negative to being a positive. So x equals negative 2. That is the axis of symmetry. Okay? Number 11, it says factor 6x squared plus 5x minus 1. So we're going to do it through tic-tac-toe. Alright? So we put 6x squared in this box, negative 1 in this box. We multiply the 2, so negative 6x squared. Make this 5x. So we need two numbers that multiply to this, but add to this. So you should think for a second, what are two numbers that multiply to this to add to this? I mean, I encourage you to pause the video, try to figure it out if you haven't done so. But the two numbers are 6x and negative 1x. Now, 6x squared and 6x, what do they have in common? That's what I put right there. 6x squared and 6x, what do they have in common? They have a 6x. 6x times what is 6x? 1. 6x squared and negative x, what do they have in common? X. X times what is negative x? Negative 1. Now, we always go across. We always go across. So we're going to get x plus 1 times 6x minus 1. Okay, and it just says factor. We don't have to set these equal to 0 because it doesn't tell us to do that on this problem. Now, if it asks you to find the x-intercepts, then yeah, you'd want to set it equal to 0 and solve for each parenthesis, for each x in each parenthesis. Okay, let's go to the last problem we need to do. That's problem 13. Give the coordinates of its x-intercepts. Hey, great! This is already a factored version of a quadratic equation. So I can get the x-intercepts just by setting each parenthesis equal to 0. So I can say 3x minus 1 equals 0. And I can say x plus 2 equals 0. So 3x minus 1 equals 0. Well, to solve for x, I have to add 1 to both sides first. So 3x is equal to a positive 1. And then I would have to divide both sides by 3. Why divide? Well, 3x means 3 times x. And I'm trying to isolate x. That means get it by itself. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So to get x by itself, I have to do the opposite of what's happening to it. So since multiplication is happening to it, I have to divide. So x could equal 1/3. That is one of my x-intercepts. Then my other x-intercept, let's go solve for it. X plus 2 equals 0. The opposite of adding 2 is subtracting 2. So this gives me x is equal to negative 2. And there you go. That's all she wrote. That's our entire review. Please feel free to email me or send me a text message over mine if something's confusing to you. Otherwise, I really do hope you guys study and work hard.